All right, good afternoon. We better get started here so we can get out of here. Good afternoon and thank you for being here today. This event is a wonderful opportunity to honor our inductees, each whom has played a key role in shaping the unique community of Watertown. Every inductee in the Watertown Community Hall of Fame has, in their own way, helped build the foundation of our community and contributed to its success. This event also gives us a chance to reflect on the rich history that has shaped Watertown into what it is. At this time, I'd like to introduce you to the Watertown Community Hall of Fame Board, starting with the Exec Committee, Mayor Reed Holeen, Chamber Executive Tim Sheehan, Watertown Area Community Foundation Executive Director Cami Mingwasser, and myself, KXLG Radio General Manager Melissa Herbold. Other community voting members include Hugh Bartles, Brad Johnson, Dan Albertson, Joel Volkrat, Mike Lucan, Glenn Vilhauer, and Vince Foley. I would also like to take the time to recognize the three individuals who are the founders of the Watertown Community Hall of Fame. Bob Faehn was the idea man, Jan DeBerg was a seed money for the Watertown Area Community Foundation, and Mark Roby, Secretary, Rules, and Historian. Thank you guys very much. This all started back in 2012 and took hold in 2013. You might be also wondering how you can nominate someone. This is very simple. Just send an email or a letter, a form of nomination to the Watertown Chamber of Commerce. As for the qualifications, that's up to you. If the person you want to nominate has made a significant impact on Watertown since 1960, then they're eligible. Once nominated, the final decision is made by the 11 board members, and a candidate must have at least 7 votes to be inducted. Also, a special thanks to Julie Ranum for hosting the plaques at the Redland Art Center, and I would also mention that the plaques are up here, so if you want to take a look at them before they head out to the Redland Center, I would encourage you to do so. But they're permanently displayed at the Redland Art Center in their own wall of fame, and I would also encourage you to visit the Redland Art Center as well and view that. Also important to mention, any excess funds from this luncheon is given to the Watertown Area Community Foundation for LATC scholarships. At this time, I'd like to introduce to you Cami Mingwasser, the Executive Director of the Watertown Area Community Foundation, who will explain more about the Hall of Fame scholarship.
Good afternoon. I'm Cami Mingwasser. I'm the Executive Director of the Watertown Area Community Foundation. It's truly a privilege to stand here before you today as a committee member, and not just because Melissa and I drastically bring down the average age of the committee. So that is an honor also. So thank you for having us, gentlemen. Thank you. It's not every day we get to be the youngest in a group, so we really appreciate it. You guys make us feel great. A very heartfelt congratulations to you, Merlin. Your dedication and leadership have made an indelible mark on our community, but also congratulations to the entire Jeitz family, Faehn family, and Schweiger families for this distinguished honor. Everybody in this room knows and identifies the community impact is a family affair, so the families of the inductees deserve to be honored as well for the many contributions, sacrifices, and hours of support you all have made for this community as well. When the founding members of the Watertown Community Hall of Fame, Jan DeBerg, Mark Roby, and Bob Faehn, first envisioned this process, in addition to honoring our community leaders, they also had another long-term goal. The goal was to fund a scholarship for deserving students who would be pursuing education at Lake Area Technical College. Their intent was to honor the legacies of those incredible community visionaries while helping to cultivate the next generation of leaders by investing in their education. In 2022, the Watertown Community Hall of Fame Scholarship was established at the Watertown Area Community Foundation. A special thank you to Melissa and KXLG Radio for their generous contribution that helped us kickstart this fund. As Melissa mentioned, today's event is not only a celebration, but also an opportunity to help grow the scholarship. Any additional funds raised from the ticket sales today will go directly towards this cause. Many have asked, and so I'm just sharing this as a point of information. This is not a shakedown in any way, shape, or form. But if you feel inspired to contribute, maybe perhaps in honor of one of today's inductees, or in honor of one of the other 23 Hall of Famers throughout the years, there are envelopes in the back near the coffee station. We would just ask that if you do choose to leave a gift, just write who you would like to honor on the back. It is always the foundation's joy to share with either the honoree or the families of your gift. The amount of your gift is never shared, but your goodwill and intention is. So if you wish to make a contribution, like I said, you can do so cash or check, or also online if you're like me at the Watertown Area Community Foundation.org. Our community has been blessed with outstanding leaders, both past and present. It is our hope that these scholarships will fuel the future leaders, enabling them to continue the legacy of service and dedication that defines not only Watertown, but today's honorees. Thank you for being here today in honor of these remarkable individuals and your support of nurturing our future community leaders.
Thank you, Cammie. I would also like to say that this is a very bare bones operation too. So note today there's no excess funds, but whatever we do receive will be put into that scholarship fund at the Community Foundation. So thank you very much. All right, now let's get to the real reason we all came here today, to honor our 3 inductees for 2024. Our first inductee is Don Schweiger. Don Schweiger was a lifelong resident of Watertown who made a significant difference in our community. Don's impact was felt in various aspects of our town. He was a successful businessman managing Schweiger's Incorporated from 1945 until he sold the business in 1989. Following that, he started TransMed, a mobile medical service, which he later sold in 2001. Don's dedication to our community extended far beyond his professional endeavors. He served as a director of the Farmers and Merchants Bank and was actively involved in organizations such as the Watertown Development Association, Holy Name Catholic Church, St. Anne's Hospital Board, Mount Marty College Board in Yankton, the State Business and Industry Political Action Committee, United Way, Super 8 Development Corporation, and the Minnesota West Technical School Board in Canby, Minnesota. Don's actions truly embodied the essence of Luke 12:48. Understanding the responsibility that comes with blessings, he generously shared his talents, wealth, knowledge, and time with others, leaving an indelible mark on our community. Here to introduce and accept the Watertown Community Hall of Fame Award for the class of 2024, our first inductee, Don Schweiger, is Todd Schweiger, Don's son.
Okay, hi. Thanks for coming. This is my sister Nan, my older sister and only sibling, my wife Colleen, my brother-in-law Mont, and the Jennings. Michael was the spearhead of the effort to get Dad into the Hall of Fame, the major hod carrier, you might say, Bull Goose Looney, and we really appreciate Michael and his efforts, and you putting up with Michael while he was doing all the legwork. I'm a former attorney, accent on the former, and when Tim said, are you going to speak? I said, yes. He said, well, 15, 20 minutes max. He said, but you can go over. So if I go over, it's not my fault, it's Tim's. I'd like to say a howdy to Merlin out there, Jeitz, as my dad called him. They were, oh, there you are, right in front of me. No wonder I couldn't find you. Jeitz and my dad were good friends, good golf buddies. They both spent time in Arizona together. Oh yeah, and they tippled a bit too. Yes, they certainly did. Let's see, where to start. Dad was born in 1918 here in Watertown. He never left except for the war. And in 1934, when he was 15, my grandfather, his dad, Archie Schweiger, did a really dumb thing. He quit his job as the manager of the the carpentry department at Gray Construction, the big construction company. He was head of their cabinet and finished carpentry work there, and bought himself a blacksmith shop. 1934, we're in the depths of the Depression. He quits a good job and buys a business that he doesn't really want. He is not a blacksmith. He's got no interest in horseshoes, but he wanted to have his own business. So my grandmother, Alma, and their daughters, as well as my dad, suddenly went from beneficiaries of Great Construction paychecks to employees of Schweiger's Body Shop. It was just on First Avenue North, right across from the guest house. And that changed my dad's life, of course, greatly. At 15, he should be having fun. He was not having fun. Of course, this is the Depression, so it was all hands on deck, because you can't afford to have employees. You have family. That's how it was back then. So he was an employee of his father's. And I brought a couple of visuals here. This is what they did. I didn't see this until after my dad died, but this was up at Schweiger's Body Shop to show the kind of work that Grandpa, primarily, with Dad's help, of course, did. They built boxes on the back of 2.5, 3-ton trucks. And these were all built by hand, because that's how you did it back then. The cabinets in the courthouse, all the woodwork in the courthouse is Great Construction. That's my grandpa's work. This is my grandpa's work. He was quite the carpenter. And Dad became a bit of a carpenter too. But look closely at this picture. And the big thing is, they were making boxes for, this is during the Depression, remember? Thank you. Coffee, beer, food, soft drinks, Dakota Warehouse, liquor, and one farm box. You know, you went where the money was. And food is kind of one of those industries that's depression-proof. So they made truck bodies. No, that's fine. Thank you. For the food industry. Well, Dad needed a little independence. So I don't know how he did it, but he convinced his parents to allow him to go out for football his senior year of high school. Otherwise, every day after school, he was at the shop, every weekend, but he lettered in football. And it is the only thing after his name in the yearbook, because it's the only thing he did. I don't know how he convinced his parents to let him free from working one whole autumn to play football, but he did. Bravo to him. He was not an argumentative man, but he must have really put up a fight. So, another thing he did once he graduated from high school in '36 was to join the National Guard. Probably seemed like a bright idea then. He'd get away from home one weekend a month, as well as a couple of weeks in the summer, and he'd have an independent source of income. Well, then December 7th happened, but it was nothing new to him and his unit, which was the 34th Signal Company right here in Rapid City. If anybody knows Ross Case, he was one of the officers. Pardon? Watertown. Oh, gosh. I'm from Rapid City, and I'll do that about 3 or 4 more times. Sorry. Thank you. Of course, my older sister is correcting me. That's what they're for, isn't it? I'm supposed to give her trouble and she's supposed to correct me, so we have a good relationship that way. So the 34th Signal Company went into active service before the war started. In the fall of 1941, they were already back at boot camp down south, Arkansas. And by February of 1942, within 2 months of the attack on Pearl Harbor, they were on troop transports headed to Great Britain. Wasted no time getting over there. They were part of the 5th Army, and the 5th Army spent more time on the battlefront than any other unit in the U.S. Army during World War II. They ended up in North Africa, and then in Italy, and then they came back. And I'm going to turn it over to a favorite son of South Dakota at this point. He's not here in person, but he wrote a great book. It's called The Greatest Generation. Mr. Tom Brokaw, of course. We share an alma mater, and that's about it, and I bought his book. So, but he's a South Dakotan. And here's what he said about guys like my dad. These men and women came of age in the Great Depression, when economic despair hovered over the land like a plague. They had watched their parents lose their businesses, their farms, their jobs, their hopes. Then, just as there was a glimmer of economic recovery, war exploded across Europe and Asia. When Pearl Harbor made it irrefutably clear that America was not a fortress, the generation was summoned to the parade ground and told to train for war. They answered the call to help save the world from the 2 most powerful and ruthless military machines ever assembled, instruments of conquest in the hands of fascist maniacs. They faced great odds and a late start, but they did not protest at a time in their lives when their days and nights should have been filled with innocent adventure, love, and the lessons of workaday world. They were fighting, often hand to hand, in the most primitive conditions possible. Of course, across the bloody landscape of North Africa, France, Belgium, Italy, Austria. They fought their way up the necklace of South Pacific islands few had ever heard of before, and made them a fixed part of American history. When the war was over, the men and women who had been involved in uniform and civilian capacities had a short-lived celebration, then immediately began the task of rebuilding their lives in the world they wanted. They were mature beyond their years, tempered by what they had been through, disciplined by their military training and sacrifices. They married in record numbers, gave birth to another distinctive generation, the baby boomers. They stayed true to their values of personal responsibility, duty, honor, and faith. They were a new kind of army now, moving onto the landscape of industry, science, art, public policy, all the fields of American life, bringing with them the same passions and discipline that had served them so well during the war. Wow. The greatest generation. But here's the really great thing about the greatest generation. They could have rested on their laurels. When Dad was in North Africa, he got a letter from his dad saying, Schweiger's Incorporated is a bust. There's no work to be done. With wartime conditions, there's no cars to repair. There's no boxes to be built. I'm going to close the doors unless I hear otherwise from you. Dad wasted no time in responding that he wanted Schweiger's body shop when he returned from the war. So Grandpa kept it open. And when Dad returned from the war, he turned the little body shop into Schweiger's Incorporated, and Eastern South Dakota, of course, knew Schweiger's Incorporated. Because there's a little farm box down here. Anyway, so back working as this whole generation did. They went back to work. They built out. They didn't create the middle class, but they spread it out to more and more people. Probably everybody in this room owes a debt to the greatest generation, because our middle class is the thing that keeps this country working. A lot of us, of course, have problems with where the United States is today. But the fact that we actually exist in no small way is because of the greatest generation. If they hadn't fought, what would we have today? If they didn't come back in great numbers and make the economy that is still what everybody wants in this world, where would we be? Now, of course, as a kid, as a baby boomer, I didn't appreciate this. I haven't appreciated it for years. I never thanked my dad or my mother for the work they did through these years, these tough years, holding on by their fingertips during the Depression, battling foes on two fronts during World War II, and then coming back and building a society. Not only that, but a lot of them, a great number of them, and many of them are on the list of inductees into the Hall of Fame, did more. They weren't looking just out for themselves. They were looking out for the betterment of their nation, their state, and their town. Dad loved Watertown. No way, you would have to have put a gun to his head to get him to leave, and then he would have come right back. It was just in his blood. He was a member of, I think, the Watertown Development Club, or development organization that had the Watertown ambassadors who would don gold blazers and go into Minnesota and try to steal businesses back to Watertown. They would meet with the owners, the boards and everything, and try to convince them to move their businesses to Watertown. Dad was real proud of his family. He was real proud of his business. But I think the third thing that he was most proud of is getting Minnesota Rubber to move here and change their name to Quad E. And he, when we would drive around town looking at new businesses and everything, he'd always get a little smile on his face when we went like Quad E, because that was one big success. There were a few things. Mom and Dad were very social people. And they were probably what would have been considered in high school the popular clique, you know, the socials. But the good thing about their group and about them was that they always wanted new blood. If you were a businessman, moved to town, had a family, and it didn't hurt if you liked to play golf. You were invited in. You were made part of the group. Even the guy that ended up embezzling all the money from the Coca-Cola plant and running out of town, he was part of the group too. They welcomed all comers. And there was one more thing that Dad did that we really didn't find out, the rest of us, including Mom, until after he died. At his wake and at his funeral, a whole plethora of businessmen came up to us and thanked us for Dad, because he had mentored them quietly in his office or in their place of business over the years to get them up and running in their new enterprise. And we didn't know about this. This was just something he did on the QT. because it was better for Watertown. It was better for South Dakota. It was better for everybody. Well, my dad would say, Todd, you're diddling again. Stop your diddling. And I'm going to stop right now. I'm done diddling. Thank you for your attention. This is a great occasion, and I appreciate you being here. Take care.
Thank you, Todd. Our next inductee, taken from us too soon, but he left a lasting impact on countless lives. Bob Faehn's illustrious career in local radio and state public service profoundly impacted the Watertown community in South Dakota. Beginning in 1984 at KSDR Radio in Watertown, Bob's talent and leadership quickly propelled him to the roles of station manager and later owner. His crowning achievement in broadcasting was the founding of KXLG Radio in 2009, a station that flourished under his vision and dedication, becoming a trusted voice and vital part of the community. Bob's commitment to local media extended beyond his stations. As he served on the South Dakota Broadcasters Association Board of Directors, championing the growth and integrity of the broadcasting industry. In parallel with his broadcasting career, Bob's dedication to public service was equally as impressive. As a South Dakota state representative, he made significant legislative contributions, including the landmark bill that eliminated smoking in bars and restaurants, reflecting his commitment to public health. His leadership was further recognized when he was elected House Majority Leader, where he worked tirelessly to improve the lives of his constituents. Bob's service on numerous boards and committees, including the South Dakota State Board of Technical Education and the Watertown Community Foundation, underscored his unwavering dedication to his community and state. His dual legacy in broadcasting and public service left an indelible mark, inspiring future generations to value community, involvement, and public commitment. Please help me in welcome our special guest and Bob's friend, Lieutenant Governor Larry Roden.
Well, good afternoon. It is an honor to be here with you all today. It's my honor to join you to celebrate the addition of the 3 leaders in the Watertown Community Hall of Fame. We're here to celebrate their achievement and their contributions to this community and the state. The governor and I work every day to make sure South Dakota is a place where freedom runs free and where our values never change. But we also want to make South Dakota a better place for our kids and our grandkids. The 3 South Dakotans that are honored here today advance that same vision. We all want South Dakota to be the best state in America to live and to work and to raise a family and to someday retire. With your permission, I'm here in particular to honor Bob Faehn. And with your permission, I'd like to read a letter that Governor Noem wrote to Bob. Good afternoon. I wanted to share my sincere appreciation to the Watertown Community Hall of Fame for recognizing Bob Faehn, a staple of the Watertown community. I had the amazing opportunity to be Bob's assistant majority leader when he was majority leader in the South Dakota House of Representatives. I am grateful for the opportunity to learn from him and to serve the great state of South Dakota alongside of him. I don't think there's anyone that doesn't have a story about Bob. More on that later. We all could sit and talk to him for hours. One thing that I always appreciated about Bob was that it didn't matter what he was doing. If someone needed to talk or to vent, he was there for them. Bob served South Dakota in so many ways, whether that was in the legislature or serving on a board or a committee. He rarely ever said no when it came to helping South Dakota. But he also dedicated so much of his time to our community. When he lost his battle with cancer, a hole formed in Watertown that we will never fully fill. Bob is a one-of-a-kind person, someone we all are so lucky to have known. Bob was selfless, a public servant, a follower of Christ, a husband, a father, and a grandfather. South Dakota lost a great man 3 years ago, and he is someone that no one will ever forget. I am honored to have called Bob my dear friend. Sincerely, Kristi Noem, Governor. And the governor said there's hardly anybody that can tell a story. I wanted to take just a quick minute and share one story with Bob, because I find myself thinking about Bob from time to time, and I never do so that it doesn't bring a smile to my face, because he just had that pleasant personality. Didn't matter what the circumstances were, he always was pleasant. Bob rose to leadership in the House. In his second term, he was elected majority whip alongside Chuck Turbeville, both men that died way too soon, and good friends of mine. So we got into session his first year in leadership. A few weeks, Governor Rounds at the time had leadership luncheons every Wednesday, noon. All of the House and Senate majority leadership would gather together with senior staff and discuss the week's work and ideas and the next best great thing that was coming up, and great meetings we had. And Bob and Chuck Turbeville were seatmates in the House, became very close friends, always sat beside each other, and Bob would, I'd look at Bob and he's just soaking it all in, listening to the conversation. And one day I could see Chuck Turbeville was pretty excited. You could tell there was something that he was wanting to get out. So when it came time to talk about the next big ideas, Chuck finally got his turn, and he spent 5 minutes just telling about this great idea that he had, and he was super excited to share that with the governor and senior staff. I could tell by body language from the senior staff, maybe it wasn't quite so well received. But he's such a nice guy. When he got done with his presentation, there was kind of a pause, awkward pause, and one by one, the governor's staff kind of came forward and told what was wrong with his idea, and then the next one would poke a few more holes in it. By the end of the discussion, they'd completely stomped a mud hole in the middle of Chuck's idea. And the last person spoke, there was kind of a long, awkward pause, and Chuck looked at Bob Faehn, who was still sitting there with a grin on his face, soaking it all in. And he looked at Bob with kind of a look of disdain on his face. He says, "I tried to tell you it was a stupid idea." and so fast forward a few weeks, Bob and Chuck are seatmates, and when we get into session, as they have agency bills or the governor's bills that come through the pipe, go through state affairs, and then I'll assign them to my whip group leaders to carry. And Chuck Turbeville was carrying one of those pieces of legislation, pretty significant. And so it was his first big deal on the floor. And so he'd been working very diligently with his floor speech, even though it was way down the calendar. And every time I looked over there, Chuck was studying his speech, and Bob was kind of watching him. Well, Chuck got up to go talk to the clerk about the process, and glanced over, and Bob waited till Chuck got down the aisleways and picked up his speech and shoved it at the bottom of the pile and in his desk, and then went back to work. And Chuck comes back, and a couple minutes later I look over there, and he's looking around his desk. He starts rifling through his stuff, and he's in full-scale panic mode. And his bill's a couple bills later on, and as they're getting closer and closer to his time, his floor speech, he's just almost frantic. And finally I see Bob Faehn and ask, "What's the problem?" He said, "I can't find my speech." He said, "It was right here. I can't find it." And Bob reached over and pulled, he said, "Oh, is this it here?" And he looked at Bob, pulled his speech out, and stood there for a while, and he says, "Bob, when my left arm quits aching, I'm going to kick your butt." But that was just one example. I just recalled earlier tonight, the last time I saw Bob was standing at this podium when we honored him here at the Lincoln Day dinner. The governor and I had come up and spent some time with him, but he was such a quality person that I will certainly never forget him. We've known some monumental leaders in our state. We have 4 of them carved on a mountain in the Black Hills. They led our country through some dark days and some of the brightest moments. Bob Faehn was a monumental leader for our state. So on behalf of Governor Nolan and myself, congratulations to the inductees and to you all for having the vision to honor people like this. Thank you for sharing your time and your talents and your treasures for the people of South Dakota. God bless you, and may God continue to bless the freest state in a nation built on the principles of freedom. Thank you all.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. And now, to accept the Watertown Community Hall of Fame Award for Bob Faehn is Susie Faehn, his wife.
Okay, to follow the Lieutenant Governor, oh boy. First of all, and it's not that long, it's just big, my bifocals. First of all, I want to thank the Hall of Fame for honoring Bob with this induction. He would say that it was not necessary as he did not like to be in the spotlight. Congratulations to Don Schweiger and Merlin, Jeitz. Where does one begin to honor a man who has given so much to this community and state? Bob and others created the Hall of Fame to recognize the individuals who made a difference in making Watertown a better place to live and work. Before Bob created KXLG Radio, he was involved in another radio station during his working career and knew the importance of being a community leader and giving back. Bob served on numerous boards and committees over the years. He was the vice chair of the South Dakota Board of Technical Education, which he thoroughly enjoyed, and was disappointed when he had to resign due to his health. He firmly believed in Lake Erie Technical College and all the good things it did for Watertown, and was one of their biggest cheerleaders. He was a past president of the Watertown Area Chamber of Commerce, Watertown Area United Way, South Dakota Broadcasters Association. He served on many local boards, the Watertown Community Foundation Board, Prairie Lakes Hospital Board, Prairie Lakes Foundation Board, just to name a few. When he was on the Prairie Lakes Hospital Board, he, along with others, started the drive to get the cancer center built to help patients with their treatment. Bob was elected to the House of Representatives in 2005 and served 6 years. While serving, he was able to help local businesses with issues that affected their daily operations. And there were some owners that talked to me after he had passed and appreciated how he had went to bat on issues that concerned them. And he appreciated the time that he went to bat on their issues and to listen to them. Bob was elected the majority leader in his last term, and he would say his biggest accomplishment was getting the bill passed that eliminated smoking in the bars and restaurants. And Larry, as you know, Bob always said being the majority leader was like herding cats, try to get stuff done. In 2009, Bob started to build KXLG Radio as he really wanted the station to be live and local and concentrate on what was happening in Watertown. Probably a little crazy thing to do with 8 other stations already in town, but he was passionate about it and said it would be a good thing for Watertown. Needless to say, KXLG was a good thing for the community. He always said that you need to promote your local community and be on the air when things are happening to let listeners be informed. He also said that you need to give back to your community. During the years, there were quite a few impromptu fundraisers or radiothons that they did to help people. Bob was always rooting for the little guy, as he called it, wanting to help where he could and seeing things through. He also did many things behind the scenes to help individuals or businesses be successful, never wanting to be recognized for helping them. During his career, he received many rewards, and he was always very humble with his acceptance of the award, always saying that he did not deserve it, that he didn't do anything special, as was just the right thing to do. Bob really loved Watertown, as he had a couple of chances to accept other jobs. One was that he thought would have been his dream job, was with the Minnesota Twins. Working in media sales, he even got a paycheck, which he never cashed. We still have it, when he was there for his time. He was also our job at a local radio station in Kansas City. We were on our way there to look for a home, and he turned around and said, "We can't do it," because he knew I couldn't leave my family. Bob would say KXLG is nothing without its listeners, and appreciates the customers and sponsors who made it all worthwhile. That was the business side of Bob. There was a lot more, but he did things so much that people didn't even know about. On the family side, we met at WVU. For those of you that are too young, that was the Watertown Business University that is now part of Lake Erie Tech. The first time he went to my home to meet my family, we walked into the house. Yes, Mom. The first thing he sees is my mother chasing my brother Mark with a bat. What a good first impression, Mom. He did not know what he was getting into. He was an only child. I was one of 8. And yes, my mom still has that blue bat. And yet we still got married. Bob was well known throughout the community. Brent and Lynn would always say, "Who does Dad not know?" Even when we were on vacation. One time, coming home from Ireland, we were on the plane in Amsterdam, and Captain Carl Wetzel said we had a short delay. Well, guess what? Bob knew the pilot. And sent a note up to him, and the next time Captain Wetzel came on the air to give a speech about we'd be taking off shortly, he said, "Hi, Bob." And so did all the passengers, and the kids just shrunk in their seats. Bob wasn't vocal very often about how proud he was of the kids, but he told me he was incredibly proud of the young adults they had become. After Brent and Lynn got married, he told me, "Now you have your 4 kids. We are blessed to have Samantha and Rodney become our kids." Then, when the grandkiddos came along, Garrett, Braylon, Bryce, Ethan, Kaylee, Braxton, you could not have had a prouder grandpa. His only regret is not being able to see you grow. Bob was a very giving person. He also wanted you to succeed. He would help you if he could, or put you in touch with someone who could help you. He made many friends, not only in Watertown, but throughout the state, and even nationally through the Idea Bank group. And there were some international ones there too that he became very good friends with. If you would talk to Bob about his legacy, he would say it is nothing. But what is your legacy and mine is the good deeds you do if you help somebody. And somebody helps somebody else. That will go on forever. And that's your legacy. People come and go in our lives, sometimes for a short time, or they can be there for a long time. We just have to make the best out of the time that we have with them. I was fortunate to know Bob for 45 years, married him for 42 years. He was a husband, a father, a grandfather, a brother-in-law, cousin, colleague, mentor, and a friend to many that he is truly missed. He left his mark on many, and I thank you for this award.
Thank you, Susie. All right, our final inductee today, Merlin Jeitz. And here to introduce Merlin today is his son, Mark Jeitz.
thank you all for being here today. This is an incredible honor and tribute to this next gentleman, whom I believe you all know very well. This means the world to my dad and family. To look around the room and see so many people out there who have worked with my dad, spent time with him, and came here today to share in this special moment. Merlin's been a very successful business owner, real estate professional, and outstanding mentor and father to our whole family. His work ethic, I believe, is unmatched, as you probably well know. He's been the past president and board member of multiple organizations in the Watertown area, and enthusiastically continues to be a big part of our community and parish. In addition to the title of dad, he also holds many other titles, such as husband, grandpa, great-grandpa, multiple golf tournaments champion, with mom won a state couples golf tournament championship, has perfected the art of running out of gas in his car. He's the multi-state speeding ticket champion, driving to Arizona all those years. He holds a record for backing into our family's cars. And around 35 years ago or so, while duck hunting, he downed 8 ducks in one shot. Now I'll let him elaborate on that if he wants to, because he's a storyteller in the family on that. So, but mostly he owns the all-around great guy title. I know it's indeed an honor for him to be inducted alongside of many of his very close friends and past Hall of Fame recipients. He's done and enjoyed doing many great things for our community, and I believe he's been a very positive role model for Watertown. I can't say enough about him and what he means to our family, and the dedication he has put forth to uplift our great community. I'd really like to thank the Hall of Fame committee for giving him this well-deserved honor today. I know it'd be impossible for me in a few short minutes to mention all of his achievements, accomplishments, and contributions to our community. So on that note, I'd like to present our third Watertown Hall of Fame inductee today, Bozy. That's a family joke. But now I'd like to present to Merlin Jeitz.
That's a long story. Not really so long. Let's see, this is going to. Well, anyway, thank you all for coming, and I want to thank the Chamber of Commerce and Tim, obviously the board of the Hall of Fame. Actually, I was on the board of on the committee of the Hall of Fame when it started. But anyway, I think this is great, and I'll try to keep this down to a steady road. Well, I think most of all my wife, Sharon. She's sacrificed over the years to take care of our kids when I wasn't around, being on the road many times 5 in the morning and not getting home till 7 at night. But I hardly knew our 2 oldest kids, but Sharon took care of them. Like, when your dad gets home, I'll go see him. And that didn't always mean good things. But anyway, she was one that would take kids back and forth to swim meets, to other events in town, but the swim meets were the one I think that she suffered the most with, because our 3 kids were swimmers and they all swam at different times. And in the summertime, we looked at the lakes, she would drag them back and forth to an outdoor pool. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But I'm very proud of Carla, our daughter, and her family who is here today. In fact, we have 4 generations sitting together here. Carla and her son, Mark. Yeah, what's your name? First of all, I got to tell you about this morning. I walked into the house where I have my office, and this man, I was getting my eyes acclimated from outside, and this man came out of the wall, and I thought, what the devil's a man doing in Carla's house? It was their son, obviously. And he's here with his wife, Alex, and his daughter, and our oldest great-granddaughter, Simone. And then Carla is our youngest granddaughter, with her husband, Captain Justin Albee, our son Mark, and his friend Katie. A sad note, and some of my family doesn't even know this, we got a call last night. Our son Tom, who give all of this material back and forth with Tim, 24 pages of goodies on my life. But he was going to be here, obviously, but he had to have his knees replaced yesterday. And so he was all prepped for surgery. We got the pictures of his preparation, ready to go in, and his legs were swollen, and he can't have surgery. So they told him it could be 6 to 8 months, and the poor guy suffered for the last 30 years, I guess, with backaches and leg aches, but I pray for him, and I hope all of you will too, that this surgery or this pain that he's going through now will be lessened, and maybe in a couple of months he will be able to have surgery. He had something called Baker's cyst. I never heard of it before, but I guess some of you have. Anyway, so I'm thankful for Tom, who, as I said, promoted me on this, and he was also my hunting and fishing partner until he left for Hawaii, where he is now. And then, oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were waving at me. I have written down here, I didn't mention it earlier, but those of you that don't know Carla are really missing out on something. She's a cookie lady, but when I go around town and meet some new people, I'll say who I am and they say, well, are you Carla's dad? And, you know, hundreds of people have said, are you Carla's dad? So I go back and give her a bad time about that. And Mark is still my hunting and fishing partner. And one of the nice things, one of the accomplishments he had was he won the coffee award when he was in high school. I don't know if all of you know what the coffee award is. It's the best athlete of the year in high school. And he won that. In fact, he was 5'10", 5 feet 10 inches tall, and jumped high jump over the bar at 6'8". But he cleared it and just missed it by that much of 6'10". And Nick will remember that, I think. And of course, our grandchildren. We have 4 grandchildren, 3 grandchildren, and 4 great-grandchildren, and Simone is here smiling tonight. I want to congratulate Don and Bob. They were good friends of mine, that was mentioned earlier. Don Schweiger, a great friend. We were on the state boards together, and we were on the development company in the Chamber of Commerce, and he was a party guy. And we lived together in a unit down in Arizona called Joshua Square, and Don was the leader in Joshua Square, and we had a good time, always. And Bob, I'll tell you one thing about Bob, 41 of us went on our trip to Europe, and Susie's shaking her head, and we were on this bus, and we were leaving Venice, going to Austria. What's the capital? Vienna. Sorry about that. But we're going to the Vienna Hilton, and it was on my birthday. And we had a little guide about this high. Her name was Maria, and she was very German-like. Do this, do this, do this. Well, we got just about to Vienna, and someone had mentioned it was my birthday. And Bob gets up, and he always said, Herr Jeitz. And Maria said, Herr Jeitz. No. Oh, I'm sorry, Herr Jeitz. The first drink is on Merlin, on Herr Jeitz. And Maria said, no, Herr Jeitz, no. Well, Bob insisted, and we opened the bar, and it cost me pretty dearly. 41 people, and then Maria, who said no, was leading the pack, and completed the pack. Well, I believe I know all the former Hall of Famers. I think I know them by first name, and they knew me by first name, and we're all friends. Not many of them are living anymore, but I see one here, Joy, is still among us. I don't think there are others. Pardon me?
Not here.
Yes.
Dave.
Dave. Hey, wait a minute, Dave. Sorry about that. But anyway, we know each other. And we shake hands and call each other by first name. We live in a great town, and as the Lieutenant Governor pointed out, and there are other 2 speakers, it's unbelievable how great this town is and how great our state is. But there's so many things that have happened in Watertown, and we have been the envy of a lot of people. And I don't know when that started, but I got into the development company well, Chamber of Commerce first and the Development Company, when we brought the Minnesota rubber here to town. In fact, here I had to tell you one thing I didn't think about until I heard that being mentioned. We were in Minneapolis at their home office, and someone said, you want to meet your new manager? Well, yeah. And out of the wall, out of the door came Jerry Mitchell. Black as he could be, he had rubber all over him. You couldn't even recognize him. But that was our first manager, and we did bring many, many people into town, for which I'm happy to have participated in. Well, anyway, a little about, maybe about me. I was born and raised on a farm at Esalen. I have 2 brothers and a sister. I graduated from Esalen High School and played in the sports. I was a pretty good student, and Denny Eastnick and I were the 2 that probably ran the class a little bit. There were only 26 of us in the class. And I was going to be a chemical engineer. And so in our high school, the greatest math we had was algebra. And so in order to be a chemical engineer, you had to have a little more math than that, but we couldn't get it. So I was going to go to Rapid City to the School of Mines. But the cost, and I was going with this girl from Haiti, and I met her 72 years ago at a dance in Lake Ponce. And it was on a Thursday night. You always went to Ponce on a Thursday night or you were nobody. And so Sharon, my wife, probably about 14 or 15 at that time, always came to the dance with a sheriff. He brought the 4 girls, and guess what? They went home with him. But anyway, we dated for about 3 years and got married. And then my first job was putting up grain bins. And that came about by Sharon's mother saying, if you're going to marry my daughter, get a job. So she took me over to Florence where they were starting to build grain bins. And so I built grain bins during that summer and made a ton of money at that time. Then after that, I went to Davies Furniture. Most of you probably know Davies. And I worked there 5 years. Then I was convinced to go into the office equipment business. I was in there 90 days, and the boss said fire him. He wasn't doing anything. So instead of firing me, Jim Cook and I went into business together and started Cooks. And that lasted 45 years. And during those 45 years, all the things that I think I did for Watertown or tried to work with Watertown were accomplished. And after that, during Cooks, we were in 7 states. We had 21 stores, 21 kiosks, and that was quite an accomplishment. I think at one time we had 405 checks went out for 1 month, payroll checks. After I got out of the out of the real estate business, well, first I should say I got into real estate business. 45 years at Cooks, I went into the real estate business. In between those 2, I went to the bank, and I talked to Gary Mack. Well, you know Gary Mack. And I sat across the desk from him. I don't know the reason I was there. And he said, what the heck are you going to do now? I said, I'm going to go into real estate. He looked me right in the eye and says, you'll never make it. What the heck does that mean? You don't have enough patience. Well, that's probably right. I didn't put that down here, but I have a plaque on my desk on one of my employees, whom Sharon has never told me who it was, brought it to the house, and it says, God, give me patience. And I mean right now. And that's sort of my life. But in business, in the office equipment business, we were #1 in the United States 3 times and not in a row, a couple of years in between. But we had a calculator that we were promoting, and obviously better than anybody else in the United States. And then a typewriter, and then a computer. And the computer was the electrical mechanical computer. At that time, most things were mechanical. So we started out, and we needed technicians. And so we didn't know what to do. We were selling calculators and selling computers and didn't have technicians. So a friend of mine from New York, in fact, he was our supplier, told us about John Kennedy, the president at that time, was promoting the NDEA, the National Defense Education Act, which was to be done in public schools, and for part of it for post-secondary education involvement. So he encouraged me to go see this school because they had to go through a public school. So I went to see D.D. Miller. I don't know how many of you here know D.D. Miller, remember him. But D.D. was quite a guy, and he was a superintendent and just got to the new school. So I said to D.D., "What do you, technical education here in Watertown?" "Oh no," he said. And if you know, he got sat back and put his head on, he said, "No, that never worked. It won't work here, we don't need that yet. We don't have the money and we don't have the facilities." So a month later, I think, or maybe 2 months later, I went back again. And he said, "Well, if you feel so strongly about it, go to see the board." So he invited me to the board meeting. And I can list the ones that were at the board meeting. Some of you would know them. But anyway, they said, "Well, what are you proposing?" And I told them I started a technical class of office machine repairs. The only thing they had available, we said, "Give us a space." The government under NDEA would pay for the teacher, for the instructor. So they said, "Okay, there's a basement over at McKinley School. It had never been used. It had cobwebs all over it. It was black and dirty and stinky, and it was down 30 stairs. So we cleaned it up and we started the office equipment repair division, the first one, and then Lake Area Tech, which you now call Lake Area College, I guess, continued from that. We hired the first 3 guys out of there, and Gene Sturm is the only one still with us, and he's not here today. But of all the things that I think I did for the town was to get to that first meeting with Dwight Miller and go to the board and get them to start the Lake Area Tech. Don Lindahl, if any of you remember him, was our supervisor. Oh, incidentally, the government paid $400 salary, a month's salary for the educator, for Jim Cook to teach it. Our money, our class, we brought everything in there. The school had nothing to do with it as far as expenses. But Don Lindahl was put in charge, and then Lynn Timmerman took over from Don Lindahl. So then, as you know, it expanded into hairdressing. It was the next class. And after that was aircraft mechanics. So, and it grew and grew, and as you all know, it became the #1 school in the United States. And President Obama was here. I don't have Obama down here, I got the US President. To give the commencement speech, and that was quite an honor for us here in Watertown. But during the time, I had very little life. I was asked to be on many, many boards, and I was on the Chamber of Commerce Board, president. I was on the JCs before that, on the development company after that, and presidents of these organizations. And I was on the development company for 25 years, and we brought in many, many, many companies to town. Trudy Say and ours, which is John Kelvin. I got a few listed down here. I was on 2 of the bank boards. I was on the Memorial St. Anne's board, on the United Way board, Arrow Foundation. I was a member of the GOED, the Government's Office of Economic Development, for about 5 or 6 years under Governor Jankel and Governor Rounds. And then with Dan Miller, we started the World Wildlife Museum downtown, which is now part of the Terry Redmond Center at the zoo. Dan Miller and I started that. I don't remember the year, but it was quite a while ago. Another thing interesting, our kids, as I spoke of earlier, were swimmers, and we didn't have an outdoor pool. So we would have to drive people to Brookings to practice. So Dale Freeberg was the mayor at that time. So I went to the council meeting and asked them if they would consider putting in an indoor pool. Are you crazy? So anyway, with enough persuasion, I had Mayor Freeberg said to me, "Jeitz, you go to the outdoor recreation people in Pierre, and if you can get half the money, I'll see that the council gets the other half." Well, we did. But I remember, this is outdoor money, so it had to be used outdoors. So we built that pool next to the high school there, and it had a sliding glass roof because it had to be called outdoor. So we finished around that, and then we had glass sides, glass ceiling, and movable sliding doors. Well, those in the school at the time know that that was heavy on the budget. The heating bill was terrific, and so They finally eventually closed the roof up and put shingles on it and closed the sides, but the pool was still there and very functional. I joined the National Guard in 1954, and I stayed in for 14 years. And I got out when I was the commanding officer of the 2nd Battalion, headquarters batteries of the 2nd Battalion, the 147th Field Artillery. And it took me about 7 years to get to captain. And Justin here's been in the Guards only for a few years, and he's captain, so I got a little talk with him on that. But I could go on and on about the things that I've done, which they asked me to do, and there are many other things. I was just sitting and thinking about some of the things, and one that was kind of insecure at the time was the junior achievement. I don't know if junior achievement is still in town, but anyway, Maury Vokrad, when he first started working with us, took that over from me when we started in Watertown. But I don't want to make this list any longer than that, so I'll just quit with that and just say all the things that I think I have accomplished, and I'm happy doing it. Now I lean back on a Wednesday morning I golf, and Sunday afternoon we golf with our friend Searings, and we, Mark and I do some hunting, and spend time with the grandchildren, not enough time, and with the great-grandchildren, not enough. But anyway, I thank you for allowing me to come up here and boast a little bit and tell you what I think I was asked to do. I see Todd smiling. I was thinking when you were telling about your truck, you never told him what the name of the truck was. It was Todd and Nan. That's it. And Don made, there were a lot of Toddins in Watertown at that time. Anyway, thank you all for coming today, and I'm honored to receive this award, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Merlin. So that wraps it up for today. Mark, am I fired? I know. Once again, congratulations to Merlin and the families of Bob and Don, the inductees into the Watertown Community Hall of Fame. Big thank you to the Watertown Chamber for organizing and managing the Hall of Fame. We appreciate it. If you know someone deserving of a nomination, please get your nominations to the Chamber today. Don't wait. And make sure you mark your calendars for the fall of 2026 as we have our next Watertown Community Hall of Fame induction luncheon and celebration. Thank you all for coming. Safe travels and God bless.